2022. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 15th of the 5th month, halfway through May. Yes, me. Halfway through May already. Nearly into that halfway point of the year. It's speeding along in the year 2023. And this evening, we're talking news, as per usual, talking news inside Trinidad and Tobago. If any of you missed me by chance, I was out for the last week or so. Well, not for the entirety of last week, but for a significant portion of last week, because our internet service decided that they wanted to give trouble, but fortunately they fixed it over the weekend and I'm here again. Let's see if we can make sure this audio is recording for the podcast listeners also. So good night or welcome to you whenever you are listening to this. We're talking news, as I said. The story, the first story that I want to talk about today is I find I'm hearing this story once too often. Once too often I'm hearing this story and I'm losing pity for the people I hear in these situations. The pity that you had the first time you hear something like this, by the time you hear it the second, third, fourth time, you're starting to think, okay, these people, they're looking for their trouble now. And I guess this could get into the realm of, would this be victim blaming? That very interesting term that we have been introduced to over the course of the last couple years. Listen to this article. 2 men invited to Laventille to buy Facebook car. The price appeared too good to be true. 2 Sangre Grande men went to Laventille on Thursday after seeing a car for sale on Facebook Marketplace, but were robbed by 5 men when they turned up with the money. Good night, Anika Bess. Like, how much sorry you could feel for people like this? But you know, I have to balance it here, because is this victim blaming? Because that's a term I've learned. That's a term I have learned over the last couple of years, where, you know, if someone is victimized by a crime and you make it seem like there is some responsibility on the victim to not place themselves in the position of becoming an easy victim. Okay. In not placing themselves in the position of becoming an easy victim, well, then that might be victim blaming. Hannah Manapia, jump in the live and discuss if you want to discuss. Good night, Terrell. Good night, Mr. Springer. Good to be here. Yes, he is, Terrell. Yes. J-World, and you will have a nice mute on that note. You would have a nice mute. Why not meet in a mall or a police station? Because, well, I don't know. You'd have to ask them. And it's not the first time this has happened. This is like a recurring thing you see at least once per week. And if the men were young, they were young men, you would say, okay, fine, well, maybe they aren't knowledgeable about the happenings in Trinidad and Tobago, okay. But police said that the men ages 36 and 39. These are big grown hardback men. You done on the downside of 30. You cross 35. 36 years you living in Trinidad and Tobago. And you going to pick up yourself on a good Thursday to go with cash in Laventille to buy a car. That makes sense, right? Militant Rockstar says, I'd like an excerpt of that convo before the actual sale took place. Want to hear that pitch? Me too. I want to know what you could tell two men to convince them that this is a legitimate deal down on Eastern Quarry Laventil. Like, bro, I love my Laventillians. If you're from Laventil, more love to you. Love up all my Trinities. But that's not where you go to make a cash deal. Like, I am sure residents of Laventil would tell you, bro, you don't make a cash deal in these parts. Especially if you are not from these parts. You from Grandy. You quite in the east. Instead of you tell them meet me halfway like we meet in Trin City Mall. Meet me Grand Bazaar self. No. You're a boss. Two of you all are bosses. So you all pick up yourselves, drive down Laventil. With the 5 then rob the 2 of $11,700 cash, a $600 cell phone, and a $1,800 cell phone. The bandits then ordered the 2 men to drive out of the area. They complied and were unharmed. They're lucky they get to keep their car. Nathan, they don't know they just come from foreign to do the deal. Listen, if you come from foreign, so go down Laventil and buy a car for 11,700 TT. Something is very suspicious, bro. Well, like, what kind of vehicle you looking for there? You know. Those are some really considerate bandits. Well, you know, I could understand from the bandits' perspective, eh? Remember, the bandits, this is probably where the bandits live. They don't want you hanging around here too long. Yeah. LIL, Laventil is love, of course. They don't want you hanging around here too long. And they're not going to harm you inside of their community. They just want the cash. If they take the car, it's going to take you too long to get out from here. And next thing you see somewhere walking down the road, you get yourself in more trouble. Here what? Just drive out so it will be less bacchanal for us. We already get the cash. You go your way. You just came to deliver some cash for us. This would go a long ways to the next zest. You consider it a donation to the next blocko. Like, after a while, my pity is kind of drying up. Right? Like, how sorry are you going to feel? How sorry can a man feel for you? How sorry can people feel? The sorries are running out. At some point in time, people must learn. People must learn. I hope that we come next week, we won't be reading another article of someone going to buy a magic car in a dark corner somewhere walking with cash. Hopefully. But now on to some further news from that. Hearing from the opposition leader, and you know, I haven't spoken for a while. We haven't spoken for a while about the Venezuelan issue, and that Venezuelan issue is a very serious thing. I've said this before, and I will reiterate it. The influx of migrants, of Venezuelan migrants into Trinidad and Tobago has already permanently changed Trinidad and Tobago. Already. We're permanently changed because of that. Our culture, our makeup, our racial dynamic, we're already permanently changed. Some of the effects we may not see for some time now, but some of them we are already seeing, and some would just be exacerbated over time. But we have already permanently changed from that. I believe so. Already. The opposition leader had a statement to say on this though. Tax and integrate Venezuelan migrants. Now, I know the opposition for a while was kind of really up in arms against the Venezuelan migrants. They kind of didn't want them here. They didn't even want them regularized to some extent. So it's interesting that they're saying tax and integrate them now. Oi, dal and rice, hold it down. I hope you have the proper amount of jeera, and the garlic must be properly burnt. Allow law-abiding Venezuelans to pay taxes and fully integrate and be fully integrated into Trinidad and Tobago's society, says opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar. The former Prime Minister called on Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley led government to regularize Venezuelans who have official migrant cards and have no police records. Persad-Bissessar, in a release, said Venezuelans who contribute to this country's economy and who have been living here for the past 3 years should be allowed to apply for driver's licenses, access medical care, pay taxes, and their children should be enrolled in our schools. Now, on the topic of getting licenses, I see a lot of, well, to be honest, I didn't investigate to know that they are for sure from Venezuela. But I have seen a fair number of Spanish-speaking, Latin American accent having taxi drivers in Trinidad and Tobago. How do they get their licenses? How does it happen? You don't need to be a citizen to have a DP. Yeah, I know that, but what papers do they use to identify themselves? Because I would assume if you are here illegally, you cannot come up and say, well, my name is Juan Rojas, I am here illegally, can I apply for a driver's permit? If all of their legal papers by now have been expired, how are you getting a driver's permit? They want to integrate the community into their base eventually. Here's the thing, Curvon. I don't too much have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with wanting to get good people as your voting base. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with Venezuelans who are providing services, who are living productive lives and aren't committing crimes and apply through the right channels. I don't have a problem with them becoming citizens and eventually voting. And if they are productive citizens, I would hope and believe, hope mostly, that they would vote according to some productive line of reasoning also. That's the hope. So I don't really mind that either. I would have a problem if they are allowing illegal Venezuelans to vote while they are not legally registered as citizens in this country. That would be a problem. But to get them into the process, I don't really have too much of a problem with that. Persad-Bissessar said, right, she said Venezuelan migrants should be allowed to pay all applicable taxes as Trinidad and Tobago citizens and to begin contributing to the national insurance system. Well, you see this NIS business? As it stands right now, NIS seems to be kind of on a bus. So, like, I don't mind more people contributing to NIS, but if they're contributing to NIS, they would be due to collect from NIS. Is NIS capable of paying for all the people that are already inside of the scheme and system, inviting more people in there? Are you sure? Yes, but they should not be allowed to vote unless citizen by birth. Wow. Is that so? You believe that someone shouldn't be allowed to vote unless they're a citizen by birth? I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. If you're a citizen here, you are living here, you are paying taxes here, you have a vested interest in what goes on here. So my thing with voters is who I want to vote. I want people who have a vested interest. So personally, like some of the olden days where landowners were the voters, I could understand why. I'm not saying that's a way to go in modern times, because there are people who are productive in society that may not own property. But maybe anyone who has a positive tax balance, they are allowed to vote. That's my kind of view. Because if you are paying into the system, you should have a say in how the money is used. Says, for example, in the United States, you cannot vote unless you are born there. No, that's not true. That is not true at all. At all in the United States. Not true. You cannot run for president unless you are a born citizen. But naturalized citizens vote all the time. They run for office. They are naturalized citizens that are Congress people and senators. So, senators, is there naturalized? Yes. Yes, senators too. So, no, not in the United States. That's not true. I don't think that's true for any country in the world. You don't really want that. You don't want that. It's something that decreases the incentive for productive people to move to your country. The only people that would move to your country are the people who are looking to suck off of your country. Anyone who would be paying into your country, anyone who would be productive, will not want to move there because they know I would have to pay into something that I would not have a say in. Lotus 333 says TNT needs to reform their colonial laws first before anything will change. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. RL, blessings to you too, sir. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Prasad Bisasa says the time has come for us to treat all of our brothers and sisters who have come here from Venezuela like fellow human beings deserving of respect and equal opportunity, she said. Prasad Bisasa said what is even more disheartening is that Venezuelan children cannot be enrolled in our public schools. All children, whatever their status, have a right to education. This government is denying thousands of migrant children in this country an education. How inhuman can one government be, she said. She said her call for these migrant Venezuelan children to be allowed a formal education is premised on the realities that migrant children will now become de facto naturalized citizens of this country by virtue of being raised here. She said it is fair to assume that these migrant children being raised in Trinidad will not necessarily easily acclimatize to Venezuela and therefore become a part and parcel of our society. Prasad Bisasa noted that during the past 3 years, many Venezuelan migrants have obtained gainful employment or started their own small businesses. Here's the thing. We have to deal with reality as it exists. As much as we would like the inhumane to who born here, what she talking. As much as we like to deal with reality as we want it, we must deal with reality as it exists, as it presents itself to us. Reality as it presents itself to us is that Venezuela is in a tough spot and many Venezuelan migrants are here. We cannot undo that. We cannot change that reality. We could say we don't like it, how much we want. We cannot change that reality. What we have to do is deal with that reality. So what do we do with this reality? Do we take all the Venezuelans who are here and post them back to Venezuela? Do we have the resources? Do we have the capabilities to even do something like that? So, okay, if we aren't going to all post them back in a mass expulsion, which I'm pretty sure would violate some treaties we signed against for refugees and all of that kind of stuff, we would never get away with that. Some one of those human rights organizations would have a lot to say about that. We would lose US funding and all of that kind of bacchanal. But let's just say, okay, we can't do that. What do we do next? They are here already. What do we do with them? Now, I read a while ago, I was reading this probably 2 or 3 years back about Sweden. Sweden has a bit of a migrant problem. Sweden over the last 30 years or so took in a pretty significant portion of migrants from, I believe, Somalia, when Somalia was having some of their strife and etc. So they have some African and Islamic migrants inside of Sweden. Now, the problem is Sweden did similar to what we seem to be heading down. And okay, they accepted them in Sweden, but they didn't allow them to be treated Swedish. They didn't allow them inside of the Swedish system. So what happened is the second generation of migrants that were born were now Norwegians. They didn't belong to Sweden. Although they were born Swedes, they didn't belong to Sweden because the Swedes did not accept them. They couldn't go back to Somalia because, well, Somalia was in strife in the first place. And anyway you take it, regular Somalians didn't accept them. And what happened? Surprisingly, that section of second generation migrants, refugees, started committing the majority of the crimes in Sweden. Shockingly. Because when you have a whole lot of young boys who are not educated, who feel like they don't belong, who feel like they have a grouse to pick against the society, that's not a good place to be. So, for all who say that we don't educate the Venezuelan migrant children, what do you think happens to them over the course of the next 18 years? Or do you think that over the course of the next 18 years, we are somehow going to be able to push them all out of the country? I think the government avoided that backlash with that policy. Lotus says when a poor country raises a child, it's cheaper for Canada and the USA. What are you trying to say, Lotus 333? Are you pointing out the reality of brain drain? If you're pointing out that that brain drain is a reality, yes, it's a reality that developing countries can spend a lot of resources training and growing people, and they can leave and go to the developed countries when they reach older. That's true. But the Venezuelan children that are born here are going to school. If they are born here to illegal parents, how are they going to school? Prasad Bisasa said further that due to their temporary and unpredictable status, the majority of Venezuelan migrants have been denied access to banking facilities, elective medical treatment at public institutions, and recognition of their educational qualifications. Migrants, she noted, cannot obtain driver's permits, and they cannot be registered for national insurance. That first one would be debatable. No, they are not automatically citizens, Terrell. For you to be recognized as a citizen, someone would have to register your birth. And if an illegal migrant woman made a child, how interested might she be in going through all of the legal processes? TNT needs to house and educate children. Okay, you're repeating yourself, Lotus. Jeez. they are just guarangues. You will see them every day. The opposition leader is just playing politics. Isn't the law that you... Okay. Prasad Bisasa said this country's public primary health care system is open to Venezuelans, but she questioned how effective it is that when our medical staff do not speak their language. Some Venezuelans have had children in this country, but are afraid to register the births. Some want to get married, but are also afraid to interface with the authorities. They should not be made to live in fear in a free country. Kaliman Kwap, that's not the point she is making. Yes, there are a lot of Spanish who born here but have no birth certificate because parents not legal. Yes, I am aware, and it seems like some people aren't aware of how some of these things go. Are you aware that there are some Trinidadians who are not registered? Their births are not registered. There are some Trinidadian adults, rich big people, and their births are not registered. It happens. It doesn't happen automatically. The registration of a birth isn't automatic. And if you are an illegal migrant, you understand, you came in here illegally. would you be lining up at the Ministry of Legal Affairs? You understand what I'm saying? Because that's where you go for your baby birth certificate. Would you be going up to the Ministry of Legal Affairs or the Office of the Attorney General, is it? You understand? These aren't things you really look to do if you have broken the law of the country to get into the country. That's not something you really look to do. Then stop entering illegally. Oh, grand idea. Please get them to do that. And while you are waiting on them doing that, the children are still being born and they are not being educated. You see, again, I started this off. I started off this discussion negating these kinds of comments. We cannot deal with the reality we wish for. We have to deal with the reality that exists. They are entering illegally. They are here illegally. They are making children. What do you do? Lotus, this is your last chance. If you only look to troll in the comments, you would be muted and you'd have to listen only. So yeah, you cannot. You obviously they aren't stopping coming here illegal. We can't stop that. Kaliman Corp says exactly. They are still citizens, sheathed or not. They are registered. A born and bred Trini who was never registered by their Trini parents are still Trini. They are still technically Trini, but they are not legally Trini. When they reach pension age, although you are a Trini born to two Trini parents, if you are not registered on the books, you collect no pension. So you could be as Trini as you want to be Trini. You could scream your Trininess to the high heavens. You could have a Trini flag tattooed over your heart. You could have a map of a beautifully boot-shaped island on your back. If you are not registered, you collect no pension at that age. That's the importance of registering. That's the importance of making it official. So yes, the migrant children who may be born here on some technicality may be able to get citizenship, yes, but if both of their parents are illegal, who is going to carry them through the process? All right, but on the abuse of the Venezuelans, I just thought this an important topic in general. Maybe I thought this as an important topic in general to understand when we're looking at things. Very often, you know, when you're thinking about oppression and abuse, etc., you've so many people, and I think personally, I think this is a Marxist strategy. This is straight out of the Communist Socialist Handbook, where nearly everyone who thinks of oppression and people going through hard times, they always think of another group. The group that is oppressing this group, the group that is making life hard, is always some other group. But interestingly enough, it seems like when the investigations are done, very often you find that the people most involved sometimes in torturing a group are members of that same group. Who says school spots already hard to get, so how the state handling this? I think there are more school spots in the country than there are extra school spots. So it's just a matter of putting them in the correct place. School spots are hard to get because people want specific schools. That's what makes school spots hard to get. Eric Cochran says they are residents of TNT, but they can't get the passport. All right, human trafficking terror for Venezuelan teen. It was 12 hours of terror. A Venezuelan teenager who lives in San Fernando recounted to police about being kidnapped abused of the worst kind, beaten, and with a gun pointed to her head, told she had been sold as a prostitute. 5 suspects, including 3 Venezuelan women, have been arrested in connection with the incident. The harrowing ordeal of human trafficking started in San Fernando late Friday night. The 19-year-old girl told police that she was taken from a bar in San Fernando by 2 men between Friday night and the early hours of Saturday morning. She was transported in a white Nissan Almera to a house in Le Plat village, Maraval, where the 2 men threatened her with violence and then advantaged her. She was later taken to a nearby apartment where a man of Spanish descent told her she had been sold to be a prostitute, a police report noted. The teenager managed to escape from the apartment just after midday on Saturday, but she was followed by 3 Venezuelan women to a bar in the area. There, they beat her about the body. Patrons, however, intervened and the teen was taken to the police. I just find it so interesting, sadly interesting, that in this horror story, the majority of the demons, if you will, were fellow Venezuelans. You would think that, these would be the people who most understand the plight, who would be most caring. Jay Cameron says, I have a problem with 5 men stalking me. They live more than 100 feet from me. That sounds like a police issue, Jay Cameron. That sounds like a police issue. All I can do is talk over the internet. I can complain on the internet about it for you, but if you really want something done about it, I think that sounds like you have to get the men, who hold weapons, who have the legal authority to use those weapons. Curve on, and that happens every day. You'd be surprised how terrible their Trinidad experience is. Wendell, that is true. That is true. It happens very regularly. And what we were speaking about previously, about them being illegal, also compounds on this. For some of these victims, they have to analyze in their mind, when they're victimized, would I be willing to keep my victimization a secret, to allow myself to stay in Trinidad? Or would I sell out the criminals who did whatever to me at the risk of being deported? Says when you work with them, you get to know they are all about self. I think that's a kind of reckless statement, bro. Because you're talking about an entire group of people. That's an entire group of people. They cannot all be the same. Even if you meet some Venezuelans that seem like they are all for themselves, that could never be reflective of the entire people. And it would be incredibly unfair to allow some Venezuelans who might be for themselves to allow you to harden your empathy when looking out at the rest of Venezuelans. And like where you said earlier, well, they need to stop entering illegally. Like, you have to understand. To me, I understand some of the plight. If my country is turning into a hellscape, obviously you would attempt to escape. Whether there are laws prohibiting you from escape or not would be inconsequential. Yeah, you could say it's illegal for them to cross, but if they are being tortured there, what do you expect? Do you expect them to remain and starve? Like, we have to be reasonable at the same time. No, bro, the ones that come here, majority are the same. Most of them come here are from the poorest parts. Here now, bro. That same stereotype could be used for the residents of Lavantil and the Port of Spain environs. That same kind of talk, that same statement you made there could be is used when talking about the small islanders that Dr. Eric Williams brought in. That they brought in some of the poorest, and all of them were the same. So what? We should look back through, and any small islander brought in by Eric Williams, get rid of them too? They are told stories that they are going to Trinidad for a weekend. Yeah, they are lied to. I hope people not getting distracted tonight, because what you raise here is a critical topic. 10 years down the road, they will remember your topic. That's what I'm saying. That's the I don't know if you were here. Good night, Positive. I apologize about last week with Tobago, bro. Digicel fault. Yeah, this is what I was saying with the example I raised about Sweden, where Sweden, when they brought in the refugees, that wasn't the issue. It was the years down the road, the second generation. Do you want a second generation of people? And the reality is the young women aren't the ones who would be in the most difficult position. Like, if we're being real about how human societies go, the young women at 18, 19, they aren't going to be the ones in the worst position. You see the young men. Listen, I believe some of the spike we're having right now in gang violence is because of that 3 years of pandemic where school was out for online. I think that 3 years of online schooling was a recruitment boom for the gangs in Trinidad and Tobago. The gangs got to recruit hundreds and hundreds of Nowherean boys to come and lose their lives for nothing. What do you think is going to happen to the next group of Nowherean Venezuelan second generation boys? What do you think is going to go on? And remember, already, not just crime positive relation, we're talking about the Venezuelan migrant situation. Already, as it is, this generation of young men would be growing up in the in-between of society. If their parents are illegal migrants, they would be growing up in slums, in ghettos, squeezed into a galvanized shed with 12 of them. They're already growing up in depressed, oppressed communities. You have to realize, bro, remember, Venezuelans come from a socialist society. Yes, I know. I don't deny that. But there are some realities to note. For one, many of these Venezuelans who may be more favorable with socialism may want to stay. Because they leave Venezuela, it may have a suggestion on their view of socialism. It may have a suggestion on that. So I don't know. But as it is, I agree with Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa. This is a problem we need to take care of. Blessings, ringleader. Forget about that, bro. They will learn our culture and live like us. Positive Edition says, I find they should send them back. Well, most of them. I don't know how they are going to do that, Positive Edition. And bear in mind, we signed onto treaties. These people are refugees. We signed treaties agreeing to keep refugees if they come at our doorsteps. They are legitimate refugees. I don't think we would be able to just send them back. As I work with immigration a lot with them, I speak their language. They are not all as good as you think. Bro, I have no misconceptions about thinking they're all good. I don't think they're all victims. I don't think they're all good. I don't think they all have the sad story that would make me love unto them. No. But I still understand the reality. I think they are human beings like us. I think if you go into Lavantil and talk to the residents, you would realize that they aren't all good either. I think if you go into Beetham and talk to the residents, you realize that they aren't all good either. Yes, we know that there are in communities where there are problems, there are problematic people. I have no doubt about that. And there is a reality where a lot of the women come here, and some of them willingly engage in prostitution, and that seems to point to a difference in how they view their moral standards. There is a difference, yes, I don't deny that, but still that doesn't negate the fact that they are human. Why not create special schools for them? Don't put them into a poor school system. Well, I don't know how a special school for them would work out. Up till what level? Who teaches it? What resources do they get? Generally says forget about the adult, but Nathan talking about their children and the threat for our future if we are not educating them. Yep. And you see, I think this make them pay for school. Pay with what, RL? RL, pay with what? Okay, you know they have money, but they have no bank account. There is no record of their money. How are you going to force them to pay if they say they have no money? And just to go back to a previous conversation I had about this, bear in mind, this is literally what public school was created for. Public school was created to socialize people into one culture. To socialize people into one culture. That's what public school was for. So I think this right here is a perfect reason for public school. This is a perfect setup for public school. We want them to be a minority in a majority Trini culture. That's how you shift cultures. In the United States, positive, just now. In the United States, their immigration plan, as originally envisioned, was that they bring in a certain amount of immigrants and then they stop. That was how the United States initially did it. Stopped for a while and allow those migrants to assimilate. You go to school with Americans, you adopt the American culture, you become Americanized, and then we can allow more people to come in. You do not want people to come in here. You create a different school for them, you create a different economy for them, and basically you have two parallel economies running in this country. Parallel economies are the setup for conflict in a country. That's the perfect setup for conflict in a country. What would it cost to educate the children? That's a very good question. What would it cost to educate them? I'm not sure if there's a dollar price for that. All right. The businessmen wanted them to come so they can have workers to exploit. I won't doubt that. Lotus asked, does TNT want a cultural melting pot or a cultural mosaic? I think personally cultural mosaics don't exactly work. You kind of need a melting pot. The melting pot is the only thing that works to me. Mosaics break apart. America has never stopped immigration. That's false. USA has always been an immigrant country and has never halted illegal immigration ever. How much do you want to wager on that Kaliman co-op? Do you have any money you're willing to wager on that? Seeing as you are that confident. Kaliman co-op, would you wager? Jump into my DMs over on Instagram. Let's get a wager going. You seem very confident of that. You seem very confident. Let's have a wager. Let's see who is more confident about what they read. All right. Junior B says, in fact, their country, they don't give you citizenship if you over 40. It's hard to adopt their culture. Militant Rockstar says, if we use the NIS metrics and economist predictions, it is imperative we educate the very nationals and get their parents working and taxed. That makes sense to me. That makes sense because they're already here. They're already here. That's the point I'm making. Imperative, I figured. They're already here. We can't undo that. We can't undo the here part. That's already going on. A lot of venues also sending a lot of us out of US out of the country. Well, of course, that's what they're here for. They're here to work and send back money. Of course, we know that. That's how it works. When trainees go to the United States, they do a lot of that too. But the United States doesn't mind that too much because the productivity is given in their borders. So if they productively work and send back US, that's not too much of a problem to us. We get the profit out of that basically. TNT wants to be like America so bad, America the cultural melting pot. I don't know if that is 100% true, as in Trinidad is aiming the any specific person is no, I want you to tell me what you will wage a Culliman Cup. That's what I want you to do in private. I will bring the facts in public. I don't think any one person is attempting to purposefully change Trinidad and Tobago like that. But the United States is a cultural force. They beam their culture out to the entirety of the world. And culture has that effect. Culture has that contagious effect. So a country with a strong culture, their culture leaks out on everyone surrounding them. So it's no surprise that America beaming out their culture across the world has so many other countries following in the cultural footsteps of the United States. There's no surprise there. That has been the case since since television and mass communication has been a thing. How much can we accept until it's too much? That's a very good question. And here's where I will put that question. I saw someone say it earlier in the chat that the police need to do their job. For us to effectively be able to stop immigration, the police, the Coast Guard, our national security apparatus need to effectively do their job. Can we get our national security apparatus to effectively do their job? Guns are illegal in Trinidad and Tobago. Guns are illegal in Trinidad and Tobago. But the majority of guns that are used in crimes, but they still somehow manage to get into the country. If they can get in the guns, would it be possible to stop the people? Kevon says, can the denominational schools offer spaces? I don't know if they will. Lotus says, but Canada is a cultural mosaic, nothing like America. Okay. RL says, the problem is Venezuelans don't want to work low-paying jobs. Is that true? Is that true? Venezuelans don't want to pay don't want to work low-paying jobs. Kaliman Corp, I changed that. I said the guns used in crimes. Come on, follow on. Takes for working people to support one pensioner. Bro, I keep saying crime is an economic driver in Trinidad. Would our geographical location make it harder for us to track down illegal weapons though? I don't know if it would make it harder. I think the corruption makes it harder. The corruption in our security services makes it harder. My local grocery is about 50% Venezuelan. Kevon, I don't know. I don't know, maybe maybe they see some different Venezuelans there, but to me, many low-paying jobs Venezuelans are there. TTPS can track weapons. They teamed up with the United States for that. I think they are the ones doing those jobs. As far as I know, Venezuelans are doing a lot of low-paying jobs. Wake up in the morning and watch the garbage trucks. There are garbage trucks right now with Venezuelans working on it. I don't think you get much more low-paying hard jobs than garbage truck. It's the stereotype for that. CJ Kimosabi says also, not true, Venezuelans aren't discriminating what jobs they want. Some, but not all, to be honest. That's my knowledge of it. Michael says, is there any solution to the corruption though, apart from a catastrophic failure event? I don't think so. Garbage truck paying next to nothing in Trinidad the worst. Yes, I know. There are some people who think garbage truck pays a lot of money, but that's not true. That's not true. Many of those garbage trucks pay like dog money. So, no, it's not, RL. No, it's not. I don't know if some garbage trucks pay that kind of money, but the guy on the back of the garbage truck, I remember a worker once that worked with us previously worked on a garbage truck, and he was receiving $80 or something like that for waking up 3 o'clock in the morning to stand behind that smelly hunk of madness. Like, nah, nope. Or they don't want to do the work, so the Venice will. That's what the contractor invoices they borrow for, not what is actually paid to the worker. Well, that's what I would have presumed went on there, Militant Rockstar, because as I said, I have spoken to some garbage men before. Like, I talk to my garbage men. Those brothers ain't making 300 a day. That's not true. Or they're destroying the construction sector, says. I don't think they're destroying the construction sector. I don't think that's happening. I think Trinidad construction has had some problems. There are some people in Trinidad's construction who don't want to work. Trinidad construction had a problem for workers years now. Many workers in Trinidad construction are not disciplined workers. They will work Monday, Tuesday, and you don't see them Wednesday and Thursday. They come Friday for pay. While some Venezuelans will come here and work Sunday to Sunday for $150 a day. Like, I mean, that's kind of oppressive on the employer side if you're looking to do that. But I don't think that's a horrible thing for the business people. Would you work on a site without overtime and NIS? Yes, I have done that before. Namely China. Or you forget all the Chinese who do construction down here year after year after year in government contracts. That's true. I would say if you have a problem with the construction sector, that more blame could probably be placed on Chinese than could be placed on the Venezuelans. And if you want to blame the Chinese, then you have to blame your government, because your government gives the contracts to the Chinese. The truth, the Trinidadian work ethic for those types of jobs is notorious compared to most of the Caribbean. That's exploiting and illegal, says. Okay, it might be in some places, but yeah, you have to understand. I always say this. People don't behave based on laws. People behave based on incentives. That's how people act. People act based on incentives. So if the incentive structure allows for such, that's what's going to happen. You could fight it if you want, but it's what's going to happen. And it's like for years upon years upon years, I could pull up probably 10 articles searching for this. Businessmen have been asking the government for years to do away with the URP and CPEP programs, because the problem that these businessmen were seeing is that these programs create bad work create a bad work ethic in Trinidad and Tobago. What happens is many people get accustomed to going to work for 9 o'clock, finishing work 11 o'clock, and getting 3/4 of a day's pay. That's what they get accustomed to. And if they get accustomed to that, they aren't going to work for someone in the private sector. So, me owning a construction company, I want to hire someone to work for me. Well, that someone isn't going to come to work for me because they could go and work for the URP and do nothing and collect money. But then, the Venezuelans come down. And now, when the URP 10 days done, and you're looking to come back to me to make a 1 week, I hired 3 Venezuelans. And the 3 Venezuelans are all more disciplined in their work ethic than you. Nathan, that position is a fairy tale. You are calling the life I live a fairy tale, Mr. Face? I'm talking about literal reality that I know for a fact. Which part of my experience that I just outlined is a fairy tale, Mr. Face? Which part of that is the fairy tale? Kaliman Cobb says, but how would they have a legal avenue to bribe coming? I don't know, Kaliman. I don't know. We have to find that legal avenue. We have to find it. I've worked on sites where contractors refuse to pay overtime. Yes, I know. I am not denying that reality, that you're still hung up on the overtime. And this is exactly why people hire Venezuelans over y'all. I'm kidding, but I'm not. The trainees that come on the site and, hey, let's pay overtime more. Let's pay overtime here. Is a man I work for. I remember there was a job we did in Arima. A guy we hired from the community, man. A guy we hired, he said he's a skilled workman. All right. We hired him. He's working for 1.5 weeks so far. Christmas coming around the corner. So, you're looking to do something, you buy a little bottle or something, a little juice, a bread, something, and you give them that for Christmas. My boy say, the least all you could do, a little cheaper, no? The least all you could do is give you a little week pay bonus, man. It's Christmas, give you a week pay bonus. Bro barely work 1 week and is expecting to get a week pay to go home with extra for the 2 weeks he's off for Christmas. Government Trinidad work. Spoil y'all. So then are you okay with exploiting workers, and that what Venezuelans have to accept? No, I am not okay with exploiting workers, and I don't think Venezuelans should accept that. I disagree with it. I despise it. I think you should pay if you hire and I have hired Venezuelans before, legal, and paid them the exact amount I would pay their local relative workers. So it's not that I endorse exploitation. I am explaining to you why the Venezuelans are taking the jobs, because they are willing to work harder. It's just that simple. If an employer has someone who is willing to work harder and someone who is not willing to work harder, and you're going to pay them the same amount, like, who will you choose? Really, who will you choose? It's not a hard thing for me. I don't find it some kind of complex, difficult thing to figure out why. It's pretty simple to me. The Venezuelans work harder and they're willing to accept a lower price. It's simple business. My issue with that is the impact on wages. Yes, it can have the impact of driving wages down generally. It can have that impact. And that's the problem with illegal immigration. Now, if they are legal migrants, if they are legal, then the wage remains the same to me. That doesn't have much of an impact. Maybe allow Venezuelans some sort of citizenship if they have a legal local sponsor. Maybe. Maybe but that's kind of what the opposition was saying. There must be a way to get them regularized, because to have them to remaining in that limbo status where they are illegal, their offspring would be illegal, we're creating issues in the present day and creating massive issues at further points down in the future. It pushes out opportunities of young unskilled trainee boys and depresses wages. Kevon, I agree, but I think things like that were done previously by things like the labor movement and minimum wage. Minimum wage already threw out the young unskilled trainee boys and killed the low wage jobs. Minimum wage and things like that already did a lot of that. So what I think illegal immigration shows us is that the economy works better without minimum wage, because illegal immigrants work outside of minimum wage and outside of the labor laws like that. So that's what eventually happens. Not citizenship, but permanent resident. You don't give people your citizenship just so. I could see that. Should I get into this story? Should I? Feel I'll leave that for tomorrow. The minimum wage is below the real market minimum wage. The real minimum wage is zero. Minimum wage is zero. If I want to hire someone and the skills that they have are worth $10 an hour and the minimum wage is $17.50, I will not pay the $10 worth person $17.50. I will not hire them. I will not hire them. I will hire someone whose worth is $20 and have them cover the job of the $10 person. That just seems obvious to me. All right, people. I think that's all for now. I was going to jump into something there with the commissioner, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll talk about the commissioner. If there are no further questions or comments, I think we could call it a night. Create more service centers, locations, call it service TNT. Service center, what kind of service do you mean? Like services for what? So who's the people that pushes our GDP so high? What do you mean the people? Like, oh, are you looking to me to divide that those population demographics? The people, the oil and gas industry, if you the people that run the oil and gas industry, those are the people that push our GDP so high, the oil and gas industry by and large. Our manufacturing industry is pretty strong too. We have a really strong manufacturing industry, and I think Trinidad and Tobago should be leaning much more into our manufacturing, become the manufacturing hub of the Caribbean and really reinforce that. Becoming the manufacturing hub of the Caribbean has nothing to do whether we have gas or oil or anything like that. That has to do with having the pole position already. We are already in the top position. Don't lose it and strengthen it. But that's another. They pay no tax and nothing. Who pays no tax? Who's making the money to have the country classed as high income? Oil and gas. I said it. Oil and gas. Oil and gas. We should position ourselves to sell goods to Guyana. Yes, and run our manufacturing juggernaut could be run with oil and gas from Guyana. And listen, if Trinidad becomes the manufacturing hub of the Caribbean, Guyana has so much space, some of that manufacturing could spill over into Guyana. But alas, politics. And I don't think, from talking to people inside the manufacturing industry, I don't think it's something very difficult to do. Because, and I think this might be the problem with manufacturing in Trinidad and Tobago. Manufacturing is private. The government doesn't need to go and make a factory. They need to move the roadblocks out of the way, and the private people will make the factory themselves. But PNM do like private. unless you were private back in the days of Eric Williams, PNM do like private. I mean, illegal immigrants, all they do is drain a country economy. They pay no tax and nothing. Correct. Oh, well, yes, in that case, yes, I understand what you're saying. And there's the importance of regularizing them, allowing them to pay taxes. They're collecting resources. They're taking resources out of the country. Take the taxes too. All right, people. If they have, Grenada gives 9% to their public service. If there are no further comments or questions, that's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. This has been the Mindful Live. I am your host, Nathan Springer. And I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live tomorrow evening around that 9:30 p.m. time. Listen, sorry about last week. Blame it on Digicel. I was ready for all the rest of the lives all the week, but Digicel decided that they wanted to play up with my internet. They fixed it over the weekend though, so I'm back. I don't know how angry I am at them yet. They said they will adjust the bill accordingly. When I see my bill, I will let you know how angry I am with Digicel. Alright, people, I will see you guys tomorrow for the next Mindful Live. Until then, peace out. I hope you're educated, informed, and entertained, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace. Laters.